Grandview Hotel had hosted presidents, celebrities, and billionaires, but on November 15th, it would be completely occupied by Navy SEALs. It started when 81-year-old Walter Harrison checked in for his Korean War reunion, carrying a leather case containing every medal he'd earned in 3 wars. Hotel manager David Conway saw the old case and told housekeeping to get rid of that dirty thing while Walter was at breakfast. They threw away his Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Bronze Stars, Purple Hearts, and the triangle-folded flag from his son's military funeral. When Walter found them in the dumpster, covered in rotting food, he called his grandson Jake through tears. They threw away everything, even Tommy's flag. Commander Jake Harrison looked at his 40 SEALs and gave one order: full tactical, we're taking that hotel. What happened next would become the most expensive mistake in Grandview's history. The Grandview Hotel stood as Richmond, Virginia's crown jewel of hospitality. 23 floors of luxury, a marble lobby that cost $12 million, and a reputation for serving only the elite. Room rates started at $800 a night. The presidential suite went for $5,000. They'd hosted foreign dignitaries, Fortune 500 CEOs, and movie stars. Walter Harrison didn't belong there, at least not by their standards. At 81, Walter moved slowly, his left leg a prosthetic from a landmine in Vietnam. His suit was 40 years old but pressed sharp, bought for his retirement ceremony in 1985. He'd saved for 6 months to afford 3 nights at the Grandview, where his Korean War unit was holding their final reunion. Of the original 120 men, only 6 remained. Walter checked in on November 13th, carrying a battered leather case that drew immediate scrutiny from the concierge. The case was held together with duct tape, its leather cracked and stained from decades of moves, storage units, and VA hospital stays. "Sir, we can store that in our secured baggage area," the desk clerk offered, barely concealing her disgust. "No thank you," Walter replied politely. "I keep it with me." Inside that case was Walter's entire military legacy. His Medal of Honor, earned at Chosin Reservoir when he held off 200 Chinese soldiers for 6 hours, allowing his company to retreat. His Silver Star from Vietnam for pulling 7 wounded Marines from a burning helicopter. 3 Purple Hearts from wounds that nearly killed him. Bronze Stars, campaign ribbons, unit patches. Most precious of all was a perfectly folded American flag in a triangle case, the flag from his son Tommy's coffin. Staff Sergeant Thomas Harrison had died in Fallujah in 2004, killed by an IED while trying to save Iraqi children from a burning school. Walter hadn't just lost a son, he'd lost his best friend. Hotel manager David Conway watched Walter limp to the elevator with visible disdain. Conway was 35, wore $3,000 suits, and had climbed the hospitality ladder by maintaining standards. In his mind, Walter lowered those standards. "Room 412, Conway told his assistant manager, Rachel Park. "Keep an eye on him. These veteran reunion groups always cause problems." For 2 days, Walter was the perfect guest. He attended reunion meetings, ate quietly in the restaurant, and bothered no one. But Conway noticed the other guests' reactions. The subtle frowns when Walter's prosthetic clicked on the marble, the moved chairs when he sat in the lobby, the whispered complaints about declining standards. On the morning of November 15th, Walter went down for breakfast, carefully locking his medal case in the room safe that was too small to hold it properly, so he placed it on the dresser beside the safe. He'd be gone 30 minutes. Conway saw his opportunity. "Maria," he called to housekeeping supervisor, Maria Santos. "Deep clean 4112, and get rid of that filthy case. It's probably contaminated with bed bugs or worse." Maria hesitated. "Sir, that's the guest's personal property. It's a health hazard, documented as biohazard disposal. I'll handle any complaints." Maria and 2 housekeepers entered Walter's room with the master key. They saw the leather case, worn but clean, obviously treasured. Maria opened it, revealing the medals, each in its presentation box, polished to perfection. "Sir, these are military medals," Maria called Conway. Conway arrived, looked at the contents and shrugged. "Old junk, probably fake. You can buy this stuff at any surplus store. Throw it all out." The housekeeper Nancy Chen spoke up. "That's a Medal of Honor. My grandfather had one. They're not fake. I said throw it out, Conway snapped, unless you'd like to find another job. They threw everything in a black garbage bag. The Medal of Honor, the Silver Star, the Purple Hearts, the Bronze Stars. The flag from Tommy's coffin was tossed in last, its triangle case cracking as it hit the other medals. The bag went down the trash chute to the hotel's main dumpster. Walter returned from breakfast to find his room door slightly open. His heart sank. The dresser was empty. The case was gone. "Excuse me," he called to a passing housekeeper. "My case. Where is it?" The housekeeper, not involved in the disposal, called Maria. Maria arrived, unable to meet Walter's eyes. "Mr. Conway said it was contaminated. We had to dispose of it." Walter's legs gave out. He grabbed the doorframe to stay upright. "Disposed? Those were my medals, my son's flag." "It's in the dumpster," Maria admitted, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry." Walter didn't wait for the elevator. Despite his prosthetic, he took the stairs, 4 floors down, through the service exit, to the loading dock where 3 massive dumpsters sat. The smell hit him first. Rotting food, garbage, waste. But Walter didn't hesitate. At 81 years old, with one leg, he climbed into the dumpster. Hotel guests eating breakfast on the terrace watched in horror as an elderly man in a suit dug through garbage, crying. Someone started filming. The video would show Walter pulling out his Medal of Honor, covered in coffee grounds and grease, sobbing as he tried to clean it with his tie. When he found Tommy's flag, soaked in what looked like spoiled milk, Walter broke completely. He held it to his chest, rocking back and forth, keening like a wounded animal. "Tommy, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, son." A guest, recognizing military distress, called out, "Sir, can we help?" Walter, through tears, managed to activate the emergency app on his phone that Jake had installed. It sent his location, recorded video, and transmitted biometric data showing severe emotional distress. 5 miles away at Naval Station Norfolk, Commander Jake Harrison was demonstrating urban warfare tactics to SEAL Team 7 when his emergency phone exploded with alerts. The video feed showed his grandfather in a dumpster, crying, holding a soiled American flag. Jake's face went from confusion to comprehension to pure rage in 3 seconds. "Chief Martinez," Jake's voice was deadly calm. "Pull up the Grandview Hotel blueprints." "Sir, my grandfather's medals were thrown in their dumpster, including my father's burial flag. We're going to occupy that hotel." 40 SEALs looked at their commander. They'd all lost brothers in combat. They all understood what a burial flag meant. "Rules of engagement?" Chief Martinez asked. "No violence unless they initiate. But we're taking every single room. Nobody leaves until this is resolved." 40 SEALs loaded into vehicles, not in military uniforms, but in tactical civilian clothes. They looked like very fit tourists. They moved in small groups to avoid attention, arriving at the Grandview from different directions. Jake arrived first, alone, walking straight to the dumpster where Walter was still trying to recover medals from garbage. "Grandpa," Jake said softly. Walter looked up, his face streaked with tears and filth. "Jake?" They threw away Tommy's flag. Jake's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. He helped Walter out of the dumpster, then carefully collected every medal, every ribbon, the broken flag case. "Who did this?" Jake asked. "The manager, Conway." Jake pulled out his phone. "All teams, execute. Occupy all points." Within 10 minutes, 40 Navy SEALs had positioned themselves throughout the Grandview Hotel. They didn't threaten anyone, didn't show weapons. They simply stood at every exit, every stairwell, every elevator. They booked every single available room using government credit cards, and when told the hotel was full, they stood in the hallways. David Conway was in his office when his assistant rushed in. "Mr. Conway, we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "There are military personnel everywhere. They're not doing anything illegal, but they're not leaving. They've blocked all exits." Conway went to the lobby and found Jake standing there, still in his tactical gear, holding a garbage-stained Medal of Honor. "Are you Conway?" Jake asked. "Yes, and you need to leave before I call the police." Call them, Jake said. Tell them you threw away a Medal of Honor. Tell them you put my father's burial flag in garbage. See how that works out for you? Conway's face paled. He hadn't known about the burial flag. Jake held up his phone, showing Conway the video that was already viral. Walter crying in the dumpster, pulling medals from trash, the broken flag case, his sobbing over Tommy. "That's my grandfather," Jake said. "A man who earned the Medal of Honor saving 130 Marines at Chosin. Those medals you called old junk? They represent more valor than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. And that flag? That covered my father's coffin when he died saving children in Iraq." The lobby had gone silent. Guests were filming everything. Staff stood frozen. "It was a mistake," Conway stammered. "No," Jake corrected. "It was a choice, and here's mine. We're occupying your hotel until you make this right." "You can't do that." Jake smiled coldly. "Watch us. We've booked every available room. We're standing in public spaces. We're not preventing anyone from leaving. We're just present, and we'll stay present until you fix this." The Richmond police arrived, led by Captain Michelle Roberts, herself a veteran. "Captain," Conway demanded, "remove these people." Roberts looked at the seals, at Walter covered in garbage stains, at the medals laid out on the concierge desk, still dirty from the dumpster. "What exactly are they doing wrong?" Roberts asked. "They're occupying my hotel." "Are they preventing business?" "They're intimidating guests." Roberts turned to the guests. "Is anyone being intimidated?" An elderly woman stepped forward. "The only thing intimidating here is knowing this hotel throws away Medal of Honor recipients' decorations. I'm checking out." Within an hour, 70% of the hotel's guests had checked out in protest. The story was exploding on social media. Grandview shame was trending. Videos of Walter in the dumpster had been viewed 10 million times. The Grandview's corporate office, called the CEO, Patricia Blackwood, was in panic mode. "Conway, what have you done?" "I disposed of some old military items." "You threw away a Medal of Honor, a burial flag. It's on every news channel." Conway was fired on the spot, but Jake wasn't satisfied. "Ma'am," Jake told the CEO over speakerphone, ensuring every SEAL heard. "Firing one manager doesn't fix this. My grandfather is traumatized. His medals are contaminated. My father's flag is ruined. What do you want?" "First, a public apology. In person. Second, full restoration of all medals and replacement of the flag case at your expense. Third, my grandfather's entire reunion group stays free. Fourth, a written policy protecting veteran property. Fifth, a $100,000 donation to the disabled American veterans." "That's extortion." "No," Jake replied. "That's consequence. You have 1 hour to decide. Until then, we remain." The SEALs didn't move. They stood like statues, silent, professional, but immovable. Guests couldn't check in. Staff couldn't rotate shifts without passing through corridors lined with America's most elite warriors. 45 minutes later, CEO Patricia Blackwood arrived personally. She found Walter in the lobby, Jake beside him, the dirty medals displayed on a table. She approached Walter, got on her knees in front of his chair, and spoke with tears in her eyes. "Mr. Harrison, I am deeply, profoundly sorry. What our staff did was unconscionable. Your service, your sacrifice, your son's sacrifice, they deserve reverence, not refuse. Please forgive us." Walter, ever the gentleman despite everything, took her hands. "Ma'am, just make sure this never happens to another veteran." Blackwood agreed to every demand. The medals were professionally restored by the Smithsonian's conservation team at Grandview's expense. The flag case was replaced with one made from wood from the USS Constitution. The entire Korean War reunion group, 6 men who'd survived hell together, stayed for free in the presidential suite. The investigation that followed revealed the Grandview Hotel's systemic discrimination went far deeper than one incident. A whistleblower, Thomas Mitchell, the hotel's former night auditor, came forward with 2 years of internal emails and recordings that exposed what they called Operation Premium. Operation Premium was Conway's initiative to elevate the brand by systematically driving away guests deemed undesirable, elderly people, disabled veterans, anyone who didn't fit the image of wealth and youth Conway wanted. There were coded instructions. VIP treatment meant harassment. Special cleaning meant property destruction. Priority service meant find any excuse to evict. Walter's name had been flagged the moment he checked in. Conway's email to staff read, 412 is a VIP guest. Ensure room receives special cleaning. Priority service if any issues arise. When Jake read these documents, his entire team gathered. What they discovered shocked them. 17 other incidents in the past year. Veterans had their medications accidentally thrown away. A wheelchair-bound Gulf War veteran was moved 4 times in one night for maintenance issues. An elderly woman's husband's ashes were misplaced during room cleaning. Master Chief Williams suggested something unprecedented. Sir, we need to find every victim. Over the next 3 weeks, the SEALs conducted their own investigation. They tracked down all 17 victims. Each story was worse than the last. 78-year-old Margaret Chen, widow of a Korean War veteran, had her husband's Purple Heart lost during cleaning. She'd spent her savings trying to recover it through collectors. 83-year-old James Thompson, a double amputee from Vietnam, was told the elevator was broken for his entire stay, forcing him to crawl up 3 flights of stairs while staff watched. But the worst was 90-year-old Samuel Peters, a Holocaust survivor who'd later served in Korea. The hotel had thrown away his concentration camp tattoo documentation and his naturalization papers, irreplaceable documents he'd carried for 70 years. He'd died 3 months later, his family said from heartbreak. Jake brought all of this to Virginia Attorney General Rebecca Martinez, herself the daughter of a veteran. This is criminal, Martinez said, reviewing the evidence. This is organized harassment, theft, and elderly abuse. The raid on Grandview's corporate office happened at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. FBI, state police, and representatives from the Department of Justice arrived simultaneously. They seized servers, documents, and arrested 3 corporate executives who'd known about and encouraged Conway's policies. During the investigation, something beautiful emerged. The Navy SEAL community, both active and retired, created Honor Guard Services, a nonprofit that would accompany elderly veterans to hotels, restaurants, and businesses to ensure respectful treatment. Walter became the unexpected face of the movement. Despite his age and trauma, he testified before Congress about discrimination against elderly veterans in public accommodations. Senators, Walter said, his voice now strong, I've been shot at by Chinese soldiers, tortured in a POW camp, and lost my leg to a landmine, but nothing hurt as much as seeing my son's burial flag in garbage. When you disrespect our fallen, and that's unforgivable. The hearing room erupted in applause, against protocol. Even the senators stood. The Walter Harrison Act passed unanimously, federal protection for military memorabilia, with felony charges for willful destruction or disrespectful disposal. Businesses that discriminated against elderly veterans faced federal civil rights violations. But Walter wasn't done. He used his settlement money, $2.3 million, to create the Tommy Harrison Foundation, providing free luxury accommodation for Gold Star families and elderly veterans visiting memorials or attending reunions. The first recipient was Maria Santos, the housekeeper who'd been forced to throw away Walter's medals. Her son had been killed in Afghanistan. She'd never been able to afford to visit his grave at Arlington. Walter personally accompanied her, wearing his restored Medal of Honor, standing beside her as she traced her son's name on the headstone. Mr. Harrison, she wept. How do you bear it? You don't bear it, Walter replied. You carry it. And sometimes, others help you carry it. That's what we're doing now, helping each other carry it. The policy changes were immediate. The Harrison Protocol mandated that military memorabilia be treated as irreplaceable artifacts. Any employee who disrespected veteran property would be immediately terminated. But the most powerful moment came when the SEALs held an impromptu ceremony in the lobby. 40 warriors formed an honor guard as Walter's medals were formally returned, cleaned and restored. When they presented the new flag case, with Tommy's flag carefully cleaned and refolded with military precision, Every SEAL saluted. Walter stood on his prosthetic leg and returned the salute. The entire lobby, guests, staff, even the arriving police, stood at attention. Maria Santos, the housekeeper who'd thrown away the medals under orders, approached Walter in tears. "Sir, I knew it was wrong. I should have refused. I'm so sorry." Walter hugged her. "You were afraid for your job. I understand fear. I've been afraid too. You're forgiven." 6 months later, the Grandview Hotel was sold. The scandal had cost them millions in boycotts and cancellations. The building became a VA outpatient clinic, providing free services to veterans. David Conway was working as a night clerk at a budget motel when he received a package. Inside was a photo of Walter at the Marine Corps birthday ball, surrounded by active-duty SEALs, wearing his restored Medal of Honor. The note read, "Mr. Conway, this is what honor looks like. It's never too late to learn. Miners Walter Harrison." Conway framed the photo. He volunteers now at the VA, pushing wheelchairs for elderly veterans. He says it's the most important job he's ever had. Jake was promoted to captain, partly for his exceptional leadership in crisis management. At his promotion ceremony, Walter pinned on his grandson's new insignia with shaking but proud hands. "Your father would be so proud," Walter whispered. "He learned from the best, Grandpa." If this story moved you, remember that every elderly veteran treasures their memorabilia, not as objects, but as sacred connections to fallen brothers, to younger selves, to those who didn't come home. A medal isn't just metal. It's memory, sacrifice, and soul. Treat them accordingly.